Welcome back. There really wasn't anything surprising about James Craig announcing he was going to run for governor. He had tipped his hand on that long ago. His announcement on Belle Isle wasn't supposed to be filled with drama, but a group still upset with his tenure as police chief provided enough drama to move the announcement to another spot on the island. Is that a sign of a nasty year to come in Michigan politics? Let's talk about it with Steve Mitchell of Mitchell Research, pollster and analyst, and political strategist Jill Alper of Alper Strategies. Jill, let me start with you. What did you make of that scene? I don't really want the protesters necessarily to just sort of win the day on the headline of it, but it did kind of show us that, especially after James Craig then sort of tried to blame Governor Whitmer, as she's in charge of state police and the DNR, that this is going to be a rough and tumble affair. Yeah,
it will be a tough election. They always are in Michigan. I think, though, and a lot of people are wondering how it is that James Craig decided to go there knowing that it's a public space. Most candidates want that day to be the day they get a clean shot at delivering their message. But this guy has been not talking to Michigan voters or Michigan media. He's been talking on conservative national cable programs. So some people think it might have been design. It let him off the hook, and he's been hiding from voters. So a lot of people scratching their heads about his decision to go there.
Well, in fact, Steve, maybe the headlines worked out better because this is going to be about raising money from places other than Michigan, and that worked out pretty well probably for James Craig, didn't it?
Well, I think, quite frankly, that anytime demonstrators attempt to provide some sort of demonstration against a candidate doing something, they hurt themselves. I would argue that this really helped James Craig, because if you're going to be running in part on a anti-crime platform, if you've got demonstrators out demonstrating against you, that's only going to point out the reason that you need to have more law and order. So I suspect that actually James Craig was benefited by that demonstration rather than hurt by the demonstration.
Steve, you've taught me many, many years ago, of course, though, that a second term or third term election for a government official is, candidates aside, opponents aside, it's a referendum on the incumbent, correct?
I certainly believe so. And prior to this show today, I did some research, and I looked at the numbers going back 6 decades to 1962. Right now, President Biden has a job approval, according to the Real Clear Politics average, of about 45%. If you take a look at presidents over that period of time, and there were 5 of them around 45, 46, 44, that type of a job approval, the overall loss has been somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 seats between the House and the Senate. Yeah. Even when you get up around 50%, presidents are losing seats. So the problem that Governor Whitmer, who's an outstanding campaigner, the problem that she and Democrats have is a running at midterm with their president in the office. That also is the advantage Republicans have.
They're also running, Jill, she's going to have to run on her record through a pandemic, which is sort of unexplored territory for most political candidates, and one where, of course, a lot of unpopular decisions had to be made, right?
Well, I think what you see on the Republican side is Trump and Trumpier in terms of, there's going to be a hot battle on their side. I don't know how that party will be united, whether it's James Craig or if it's someone else. So that's going to be their problem, for starters. And second, the governor has a great record. She's invested more than anyone in K through 12 schools, job training, growing the economy. Big announcement this past week with the new Ford 150, Lightning, new jobs. There's going to be a contrast. And right now, voters don't know who she's running against. But I worked for Bill Clinton. He beat the 6-year itch. I worked for Jennifer Granholm during the greatest economic recession in our state, and they came out ahead. And I think we're going to see that kind of a battle with the governor victorious.
Yeah, Steve, this.
Well, you take a look at,
go ahead.
If you take a look at both those examples, in 2006, George Bush was very unpopular. In fact, in 2006, not one Democratic incumbent governor, U.S. senator, U.S. congressman, or state legislator lost in 2006. It was that good of a year for Democrats. Clinton in '98, when he ran, the voters were saying to the pollsters, he's terrific, and his ratings actually went way up into the 60s by 1998's election. So those are two different elections.
Sorry, my friend. In that midterm election, though, voters voted with Bill Clinton and even with Jennifer Granholm for progress over partisanship. And we see in this era of Trump, very, very divisive time, voters wanting not extremism, but help, investment in building a future economy. The same message that President Biden is looking to unify the country and will have probably the most expansive economic recovery if we can get the reconciliation bill passed and when the infrastructure bill takes effect. So,
I'll look at the history on this.
Steve, let me ask you.
I'll look at the history on it.
Steve, let me ask you though about the Trump factor in all this. We saw him this past week endorse Matthew DePerno against Dana Nessel for Attorney General. And he's one of the guys who's been leading the fight, believing that there was fraudulent voting in Michigan. James Craig's going to be held to that litmus test, I imagine, by former President Trump over how he feels about the way that the election. How much of the footprint of this is going to be? As I said, yes, it's a referendum on the incumbent. How much of it's a referendum on Donald Trump?
Donald Trump is going to have a role in this, but the bottom line is the Democrats will try to make it about Donald Trump. At the end of the day, Joe Biden has to live with his decisions in Afghanistan, with the mandates that he's calling for, which you may or may not agree with. But I think I just look at history, and history just is almost resounding in the fact that 80% of the time the incumbent loses seats, and the only time when that's not happened is when the incumbents are in the 60s, as Clinton was in 1998 and as Bush was in 2002. So I think it's a tough row for Democrats as a result of that. And again, in politics, it's often the fact that you have no control over your own destiny. Your destiny is attached to somebody else.
And I got to leave it there,
and
gang.
it's going to be an exciting campaign, I think.
No doubt.
But Trump will
Steve,
be a factor.
I got to get to a break. I'll have the two of you back again as we move through the campaign year. This is Flashpoint, Local 4, back with more in a moment.